What is up, YouTube? Kevin Wolford 123. Today is a new video and a pickup that I got, which you might have saw in another video or one of my TikToks if you watch TikTok. This arcade cab is an actual Wallcade and was designed around Ainsley Harrier, and it said "Ready, Steady, Cook" on it. Absolutely awful. And I didn't actually make a video of like how the build process went, but I'm going to talk over what's happened to it and what's gone on. So this cab here has got a 23-inch just a screen. I think it's a 1080p screen. It came with it. I've reused it. The rest of it was obviously covered in the stickers. That's all gone. I've gone for a bubble theme. Luckily, the outside was all green, you know, the T-molding, but obviously bubble is blue and green for the characters. Worked out quite well because the actual box itself is now blue and then the moulding's green. It kind of worked out, so I didn't have to replace that. There are bits that are still white, but again, you don't really get decals for that. But if you did, I mean, it'd be an absolute pain in the ass to fit. So when I originally got this, I couldn't open it. I assumed it was actually glued shut. It wasn't glued shut. What it was in this control panel, this was the only bit that was loose. So you've got these two caps that I've put on, but there's screws in it. If you undo the screws on both sides, you can remove this. So when you remove this control panel, it lets you get access to the stuff inside. The only thing you don't get access to is the screen, because the screen is bolted from behind into some wood, and then the bolts go into the side here on the inside. So that's why I couldn't take the side off when I took all the bolts off for the first time. So I had to do everything through this gap. So I'm going to sit down now because I am old and falling apart. So we're going to talk about the cab. So the cab itself is a Wallcade. It's supposed to hook onto the wall, but currently it's on a TV stand. And the way I've done it is really jank for the moment because I only fitted it yesterday. It is slightly overhanging. That's annoying, but it's, if you ignore the cushion that's stuffed in there, if it will focus. So basically I've bolted on or screwed in the brackets for the TV and then hooked it onto the metal rack. And then I've used a cushion currently to stop it wobbling massively downwards when you push it. There's still a bit of a wobble, so the idea is on the post here, it's floating all the way up until it gets to like the T section here. I'm going to put something that's like square, like a chunk of wood or something, and fit that between the metal and the bottom so that it's more rigid. Because you can tilt this left and right, it can move. So the cab itself is running on a Pi 4. Originally it was going to be a Pi 3, but the Pi 3 is alright, but some of the games did lag. So one of the games which was really hard to run was Ninja Baseball Batman, which is, if you haven't played it, it's a great game. Side-scrolling beat 'em up. The problem with it was there was quite a lot of stutters and things like that. So I got the Pi 4 and it's much better. And I've overclocked this as well. I think it's overclocked to 2100 megahertz. And I think the GPU was 700 up to 900. So I fitted that inside and I've basically double-sided taped it to like this sort of section here. And it's got a cooling fan and a heatsink on it. And then obviously as it gets warm, the air will rise. And then it's got little vents on the top. It'll come out of there. There's loads of room in here. It isn't a PC. It doesn't need loads and loads of fans and vents because it's only a small little Pi. Excuse the creaky chair. So it will work like that just fine. As for the audio, we still have the speakers. If you look here, you might be able to see they're glowing red. So the reason being is the speakers it came with, the right one actually had a hole in it, and I got this little adapter which allowed me to like use it as a Bluetooth adapter, but also had a volume knob, and I was going to wire it to the bottom. It ended up backfiring because the speaker had a hole in it, so I decided to just get PC speakers. So what I did with those, I don't know if you'll see that down there, but that lit up button there, that is the volume wheel. So that is now the volume, and you can turn it all the way down and then turn it off as well, like that. So you can have it as loud as you want, and on there, that's the power switch there. And I hooked that up to the PC speakers. These are Red Dragon speakers. They're like £20, dirt cheap. They've got alright reviews, and for a cab like this, I think they're perfectly fine. The sound quality, it's not Dolby Atmos 5.1 whatever mega surround sound, but for the stereo sound that's here, the original speakers were just wired in dual mono, where one was tapped to the other one. Not ideal, because then you don't get the stereo sound. As they are now, they're back to stereo, so left and right channel. But They're nice and loud. You can turn it right up, and it sounds great. Like, it does sound great. And with the chamber itself being hollow inside, it does give it... It's not going to pick up on the video. But it's got a bit of bass. Nothing crazy. If you want a subwoofer, you could put a subwoofer in there. There's probably room. But it works. So they were £20. Inside it was the Pandora's box. That's gone and sold and obviously upgraded. I got more for the Pandora's box, which is crap, than I did buying the Pi 4. I think the Pi 4 worked out was about £28, whereas I think the Pandora, I got about £35 for it. Cat's come to join us now. Hello, mate. So, yeah, that works. What else? The power supply in it is the original one. The only difference with the power supply is I tapped into the buttons. So the buttons, as you can see, are lit up. These were swapped out. The original ones were just like this, but I've used the green one just because it's going to be a reset button. That's kind of like your hotkey and credit. So if you're in a game, you can add credits with that button there. But if you want to exit the game, you hold that, and then you press that, and that exits the game. But if you hold that and then press this one, for instance, it will reset the game. Or if you want to go into the emulator options, it does that, and so on. There's different bits. The screen itself, I've got it set to a curvature, so it's got that CRT look. It's not incredible, like you're not getting a real CRT here, but I think it actually looks really nice, and it looks really cool. And then for the side bits, you haven't got the black bars there. It gives you a little bit of info about the game or something like that. So on some games, it will give you the control lists and stuff like that, which is quite a nice touch. But on this one, it just says Bubble Bobble 2, and it's got the characters, but it gives you like a CRT sort of simulated 4x3, and it's okay. It does the job. This screen, ideally, I would have upgraded to like a 1 millisecond screen. The one that's in here, I think, is a 25 millisecond screen, so it does have a bit of ghosting on certain games. But overall, it does the job. Apart from that, the only little issue I had was, so if you ever get a Pi 4 or a Raspberry Pi and you want to stick it in an arcade cab, if you get any issues where sometimes you turn it on and nothing happens, it doesn't boot into anything, it's the power supply. It doesn't matter, it's the power supply every single time. Now, this device I'd actually wired to the arcade power supply thinking, yeah, 5 volts, 10 amps will be great. It isn't. And the reason being is because the Pi uses 5.1 volts, and even if you up the voltage on the power supply, it still says fuck off, basically, and it doesn't work. So, yeah, I had to wire that separately. That's why we have 2 plugs in the wall. One's for the Pi, and one's for the rest of the power and the screen and everything else. It's annoying, but I didn't want to put, like... the other thing you could have done was got a 2-socket adapter and put that inside and wired that straight to the plug at the bottom, and then that would go into the wall, and then you could just plug in your screen and then all the wiring and all that from the arcade cab straight into that, and it would have made it neater. But I don't like the idea of having a multi-socket plug inside a cab, which I can't get to at any time unless I unbolt everything. It does worry me, and to me, it's kind of a fire risk. And other people will go, no, that's fine, it's fine. But I just don't want to risk it. I'd rather have the switches on the wall where I can just turn them off. So going on to this, the zippy sticks are the original ones that it came with. They do the job. They're okay. They're not incredible. I'm not a big fan of the amount of room you've got to play with. You sort of have to play like this because you haven't got much room here. But on this player, you've got loads of room here. So I'd rather be player 2 on most of the games. Now we're going to go into the menu. So you hold this button here, and then you hit start. There I am. And then it reboots back to the menu. And these, I was searching for Bubble Bobble at that time, but you've got loads of games on it. And I think, yeah. So if I go in here and then you hit this button here, that brings up this menu, and that allows you to set what game you want to search for. If you turn that off, that gives you all the games that are on it. And like the song, it's got music that plays. I'm going to turn this down actually because it's quite loud. It's got music that will play in between. Each game has a little video so you can hear it, and it, you know, lowers the sound so you can see it and hear it a bit better. But you've got games galore. If you want to jump down in games, it's these 2 buttons here. So that's up and that one's down, and you can just go forever. All different systems, but this was mainly for arcade stuff. I don't really personally see the point in sitting down at something like this and playing Super Nintendo. But if you did want to play a Street Fighter game on Super Nintendo with these controls, of course, yeah, that's no problem. But I'm not going to play something like Super Mario World on this, but it's on here anyway, pre-built. I mean, I can see there you've got Castlevania 3, the Famicom one. You've got Kid Dracula for the Famicom as well. You know, there's all sorts on here. But to me, I wanted it for arcade. You've got a Thomas wave on here as well. So if you were to go into a game, you just press this button. So this is enter and this is back. And then you just find the game you want. Brain, no idea what that is. So yeah, you're just basically going through the list until you find something you want to play. And you go, oh, there's columns, and then you just hit the button. And then it should just load up. Now, some of the games still need setting up for the controls. As standard, it tends to set up these two buttons, and if you've got a third button game, it puts it here. But I mapped that. But if you do need to know how to remap that, because you might be on this video and go, like, I've got this system, or I've got the Pi, and I don't know how to do it in batocera. You basically get into the Pi menu, which is hotkey and this button for me. So, and that brings up this menu here. Then you would go down. And this is a per emulator basis. So if this was arcade, for instance, you'd go to controls, enter that, port 1, and then set it up. Now, the way they set these controls up tends to be A, B, X, Y. But for some reason, it does it as this with the buttons. It's like A, B, Y instead of like, this is R. It's so confusing. So what you need to do is go into port 1, and whatever that button is, which is probably going to be X or Y, you want to change it to R. And then it's over here, and that's it. Then you've got your 3 buttons. But with your Neo Geo, the way I mapped that was the Neo Geo layout, which is these ones here. So 4 fingers like this. So light punch, light kick, heavy punch, heavy kick. So I can play it like that. Ideally, with Neo Geo, you want it sort of spread like that. But, you know, you're going to have to either add another button here and play like this, or, you know, just change the layout. And to be honest, I'm not really going to play Neo Geo much on this because I've got the MVS and I've got the AES, and I've got all that for a CRT anyway. Probably not going to touch it. But anyway, if you set your controls to port 1, port 2, all you need to do is go up, save game remap files, and then save to core. Saving it to the core means every single game that uses that core will then have those buttons. So here's columns. I assume that it's already set up. You can put credits in. I'll press start. There you go. So, and that's it. And cat's destroying a chair in that room. And then, yeah, it adds these side bits as well, which is quite nice. You know, look, Sega. It's quite nice, and it fills it in with a CRT look. Oh, it's just that button for this. But yeah. And that's it. And then you can just back out. So I think the guy originally bought one of these, and he paid a fortune for what I got it for and modded it to look like this. I think it's worth it. It cost me about 100-ish quid to actually get it into this state. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.